I think that's what somebody said. Yeah.
They're gonna big raises out there.
He said when he figured out the package they offered him, it would be an additional $1,200 a month take home pay.
Yeah. Yeah. I wish you would have done it earlier. It'd be hard.
I guess they just offered it to
Oh,
him last week.
yeah, yeah.
He emailed me this weekend, so.
Jeff? Okay, we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. We do need a motion to adopt the agenda, and we do have an addendum this evening.
Move to adopt the agenda with the addendum.
Second it?
Okay, been moved and seconded to adopt the agenda with addendum. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. 3.0, approval of the minutes. Several board meetings here. Any questions about the minutes?
So moved. Move to adopt all the minutes of the past meetings last month.
Second. Moved and second to approve those minutes from the 3 June board meetings. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. 4.0, hearing of requests and suggestions of citizens and organizations. Is there anyone that wishes to address the board, not already on the agenda otherwise? Seeing none, hearing none, we'll move to 5.0, special presentation, Lonnie Quarton, high school social studies teacher.
All right, so the board, I think she's out there.
She is there, yes.
Right, okay, so she can come on in. So
Come on in.
the board approved a new course to be added. They do that each year. You did that in January of this last year. So she's going to share with you what that coursework's going to be. Yeah.
Thank you for having me here today. I'm really excited about this new course. All three of us history teachers kind of got a chance to pick some electives that we wanted to teach this next year. You know, we teach American history, we teach world history, of course, as our standards, and they're important. But I think for us to really get kids to understand how important history is and, you know, why we love it so much, is to kind of get into more of that micro history, you know, not just the broad topics, which of course are very important, but also, you know, understanding individuals and things like that more. So all three of us spent a lot of time talking to our students, you know, what kind of history classes would you like to learn? World wars are always popular. And then African American history came up, and that's where I kind of stepped in for that one. So I have a few handouts I guess I can pass around here. One of the reasons I think that this is so important, well, here, let me hand this out. Yeah. Sorry, I have my notes here so I don't go out of order because I do that a lot. What I'll kind of talk about is just some of the stuff I've been working on. I've been working a lot this summer on this course, lots of hours, and I don't even know how I'm going to try to fit all this in a semester. I'm going to try my best. But I know one of the most important units of this is going to be the topic about slavery. And what I'm passing around right now actually is a study that was done from the, let me make sure I say it right, the Southern Poverty Law Center. And it talks about how they really don't believe that we are teaching slavery as well as we should. As far as, yeah, that sheet right there has a lot of facts on it about, they questioned, they did a lot of studies on like high school students and even teachers on what they knew about the topic, how, especially like how it impacts us today, socially, economically. And if you look at the percentages, it's not being taught well enough. So that's a really high priority for me. Another great thing that they did, was they came out with this framework, and I can pass this around too, I don't have copies or anything, but it goes through about 25 different goals that they think should be taught with slavery. The issue of slavery, starting with indigenous people in America, all the way up to Reconstruction. And I've been using a lot of this information. It's been so wonderful because it walks you through step by step some important stuff that I think we need to be teaching. They also provide so much information, you know, not just a bunch of readings, but YouTube videos, podcasts, things that I think kids are going to be more interested in than just reading article after article, stuff like that. I do have some of my supplemental readings here too, if anybody wants to look at that. It's kind of a work in progress, so it's a little messy, but it's probably overloaded. Like if I tell kids we're going to read a textbook and this, they're probably going to, cry. But since it's my first semester teaching this, I want to have more than enough stuff, and then I can really kind of, once I'm in the classroom, decide, yes, let's watch a video over this, or let's read this article, things like that. So there's that. I can also hand this out. It's kind of my notes, but it also walks you through a lot of these objectives that are in here, and then it has a lot of the stuff that I'm planning on using or going to try to use as well. So I made copies for you on this one too. If you want to look through that. It is not completely done. I've been working on this a lot this summer, and I still feel like I think I got to about reconstruction, and I'm still working from there. The last thing I'd like to talk about and show you is the textbook that I'm wanting to use as well, and I do have information on the textbook I can hand out in a second. It's called Black History 365, and it's not from one of the bigger textbook companies. It only came out less than a year ago, but it's really been getting a lot of attention, especially on social media, and when I looked through it, I just absolutely loved it. It is a textbook as far as, walks you through. It has the different modules, this different setup. It starts with, early history in Africa, moves on to very modern history. But what I love about it is that it has a lot of interactive stuff for students. It has QR codes, so where you use your phone, you can scan it, and then a video pops up on your phone. Or if you're using the online one, you can click on the links, and then it has YouTube videos, some podcasts, lots of pictures, things like that. It also recognizes that some of the topics I'm going to be discussing are controversial, even today. And it has what they call elephant experience, where they kind of, in the book, have this kind of little sidebar that says, hey, this is a tough issue to talk about. Let's figure out how to do it in a good way. And one of the things that really stuck out with me about this book is they have 4 goals that they want educators and students to learn. They want them to become critical thinkers, compassionate listeners, fact-based, respectful communicators, and action-oriented solutionists. So I really like that idea. I attended one of their virtual open house. They talked a lot about social emotional learning, which I know we mention a lot in this district is very important. So it's just gonna have a lot of information. Like I said, it's how I'm gonna put all this in one semester is my biggest challenge right now, because there's so many things that I think we can discuss, we can learn. One final thing on here that I loved was they have a community outreach thing in each module where students are asked to do things outside of the classroom. It kind of starts out like module 1, just maybe going to a few friends or adults and asking kind of questions about, like, is Africa a continent or a country? Just kind of getting an idea of what people know about some of the issues or some of the parts of history. And then it goes on to further in the modules, going to like, hey, how about you learn some of your local history, That's something I've been doing a lot this summer, and I'm not from Parsons, but there's some amazing history out here. And I think having the students kind of go out and learn it themselves rather than me just sitting there in the classroom all the time is going to be really exciting. And I can't
So
wait
you
to
want to
do that.
incorporate some of our African-American history here.
Absolutely.
That's
Yes,
great.
Definitely.
In your
I'm very
teaching.
excited about that. So,
She got a copy of the Wichita State study, and so I know.
do what?
You got a copy of the Wichita State study?
Yes, I did.
From
Yep,
years
I
ago,
just
so
read
that
through
was-
that. Yep, yeah.
And you understood it?
Best I could. Yeah.
Why only one semester?
It's an elective, and the way, like how many electives that students have to have for social studies, I think is 2. And we've kind of been revamping the social studies department, especially this year. We're going to require that geography is taken freshman year. We've really learned that students need more geography. I would love to do a full year. I don't know how many students would have time on their schedule to take that with everything else they need.
So right now, it's a semester course, and we have, I think, 13, 14 enrolled in first semester already, and then a dozen or more that have indicated and enrolled for second semester. So it'll be offered every semester.
Is there any prerequisite to taking this class?
I'm sorry, what?
Any prerequisite?
We would mostly like juniors and seniors to take it. That way they've had like their basic US history course beforehand. Also, because of some of the topics we're going to be talking about maturity-wise, I think that it'll benefit juniors and seniors more. So,
Is geography required at all at the middle school?
I believe at the middle school, it's is it 7th grade?
And I'm not sure if it's 7th or 8th grade, but there are requirements. that would be
Is
in
it a
the-
whole year or just within
No, it would
a?
be within the social studies
Okay.
curriculum. So, because it'd be a part of those standards, those grade level
We've
standards.
tried to kind of put geography in like world history and stuff, and we just kind of run out of time. It's going to be cultural geography, which I think will be really fun to teach as well.
Not physical geography.
It will have physical in it.
Right.
But yeah, we want to, here's a map, sure, but when I had geography in high school, I still remember my teacher going, here's Africa, learn all 52 countries by Friday. I don't want to do that, let's break them up by regions and stuff
Right,
like
the
that,
area.
so. Yeah.
Okay.
I have a couple of statements.
Sure.
So, as you know, the critical race theory is a buzzword going around chastising teachers, K through 12 teachers, saying that you're not going to teach that. And then the Kansas State Board of Education came out with a statement, which you're well aware of. But in one of your papers, and it's kind of interesting, the way you have it worded, I think it's interesting, of the 15 sets of state standards that we as your team, we analyzed, none, just like the state says, none addresses how the ideology of white supremacy rose to justify the institution of slavery, and most failed to lay out meaningful requirements for learning about slavery, about the lives of millions of enslaved. And then you have a pre-reading, The Classical Roots of White Supremacy. Who's that written by, just out of curiosity?
It's part of that, the Southern, I keep wanting to say it wrong.
Poverty Law
Poverty
Center.
Law Center, yeah.
Okay.
It's an article from in there.
So, along those lines, so do you teach like the Trail of Tears, or about the Holocaust, or the Tulsa Black Wall Street? Is that part of any of your?
Yeah, I've taught all of them. Tulsa will be in here. It's one of my articles in here for sure. Holocaust, actually, last week, all three of us social studies teachers at the high school just attended a 4-day seminar over the Holocaust.
At Union Station.
Yeah, at Union Station. It was part of the Auschwitz exhibit. It was absolutely amazing and so insightful. Mr. Pommier actually is going to be teaching World War II class where he's going to focus on, within it, the Holocaust. We do teach it in U.S. history as well.
And here's one really outstanding statement, in my opinion. Popular textbooks fail to provide comprehensive coverage of slavery and enslaved peoples. So is that one of the main goals of, or one of the, that you're trying to get across to your students?
It's, yeah, I mean, that statistic is directly from this, I put the web page on because I copy and paste most of the facts. They're not in my words by any means. But I think this book does do a good job on covering slavery pretty well. The thing is, I think, when you have a U.S. history book, it's got a lot of information in a small book, whereas this is going to focus on specifics like that.
Okay, one more thing and then I'll finish. But this paper is really pretty powerful, the way I read it. And you point out only 8% of high school seniors surveyed can identify slavery as the central cause of the Civil War. 8%. So that's one of the things that you're trying to get across to the students, right?
Yeah, sure.
And 2/3 of students, I guess, don't know that it took a constitutional amendment to formally end slavery. And then fewer than 1 in 4 students can correctly identify how provisions in the Constitution gave advantages to slaveholders. That's powerful justification for part of what you're going to teach, in my opinion.
I believe so too, thank you.
I do think it's important to note that it isn't critical race theory. That isn't something that's being taught. That's not a Kansas standard, and that's not what this course is about or will cover. That's a theory that's been around for a long time, and it's gotten some traction in the news as of late, but that is not what this class is about. I know she has worked really hard. Lonnie has done a good job of working this summer and preparing, and is excited for the class, and there are kids that are excited, and I think it's a great opportunity to learn something that we didn't otherwise know.
I appreciate you coming to Juneteenth to start talking to people that are members of the African Americans in this community. I've learned a lot in the 30 or 40 years that I've been around from a lot of my friends that are African Americans, and there's a lot of history here. And then if you ever read the Wichita State study, you'll get a real eye-awakener.
Yeah, and I do ask this because you guys, a lot of you have been a part of this community for a long time. I've only been here 7 years. If you do have resources or anything you'd like to add to help me with this, I very much appreciate that too.
Given the size of that textbook, that's quite impressive. that's.
And then all the QR codes in there,
Yeah.
I think there's over 1,000. It's,
Yeah.
it's a lot. It's a lot of
That's
information.
And so, and to address your issue, Olivia, oftentimes when we've had, World History 1, World History 2, it starts with World History 1, and then it goes to 2, if you've got so much material to cover, and if you've got enrollments and so forth. So I would think that, if there's demand and material, this is our starting point.
Yeah, I think the interest
Yeah.
will grow. I do.
I commend you for taking this on. You spent a lot of time this summer. You didn't have to do this, you're doing it, and so I appreciate your effort on this. Sure
Thank you
do.
so much.
Yeah,
Well, hold
you're
up to
very
that.
welcome.
I agree. I've talked to you several times, my wife and I have talked to you. This is a challenge, and you've taken the challenge, and looks like you're going to do a really great job.
I think she will.
Any further questions for Ms. Portman? Okay, thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you for
Appreciate
all your
coming and
research
talking
and
to
hard
us.
work.
Thanks, Lonnie.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to 6.0, report of the superintendent of schools.
Okay, so there's a number of things going on facility-wise. I thought I'd give you an update. Parking lot at the district office is completed. It's nice. It's been done. If you drive by some of the elementary buildings, their playgrounds are being resurfaced. A couple of those are finished. The windows at Guthridge, which had been something that had been on the agenda and the team had done, those windows are here, and they were putting them in. So those are things that are happening and good facility-wise. So the next thing is the strategic plan. So you'll notice the new strategic plan that was adopted is in the front of your agenda, and so it'll continue to be in the front of your agenda and the things we hang up and hand out. It'll also be in each of the buildings. They're making a large one. That'll be something that we go over with the entire staff when school starts. I did want to share with you this. It's handed out. You each have it. So this is kind of this is how we're going to do the strategic plan. When we look at those specific areas, we know that under academic support or student supports is what those are called, we have to have tier 2 and tier 3 supports at the secondary level. That's a requirement with the DIBELS. So we've added that. What we'll do then is with each of these, we'll have teams. There'll be teams in the buildings and in the district that will work on these action items. They're going to decide, what are we going to do? Why are we doing it? Who's assigned to do it? How are we going to do it? Here's when we're going to start, here's when we're going to check, and here's when it's going to be finished. So at the end of this school year, the one page that we have strategic plan, we'll have another page that we'll hand out that'll be a strategic plan update. And that'll let everyone know, okay, during the 21-22 school year, here's what we got done with individual plans of study. Here's where we were with communication, the different areas. So I just wanted to let you know that this is what we're going to use as we move forward. Let's see. Okay, ESSER 2 and ESSER 3, I wish I had some additional updates. But, we have a meeting on Friday at 12:30. Our ESSER 2 plan is still at the state, so I'm waiting to hear back. When we were up there today, Tanya and I were, for the budget review, they walked us over to the ESSER group so that we could ask a few questions, and nobody was there, which happens. So, but we've turned in our plan. We know it's gone through the first 2 steps and been approved, so we're just waiting for that final step to go to the state board. There's always, you know, when they have the meetings, or sometimes there's some confusion when things are, you know, when you have this amount of time, we were able to get some of that clarified. So hopefully, the plan is to hear back, hopefully this week. And Friday, we have the next webinar to know. So,
I have a question on that, when you get finished on the SNR, or ESSER.
okay,
too.
do you want to ask that?
Yes.
Sure.
Okay, our windows at Guthridge now, are they going to be paid from those funds?
Well, I've put that in the application, and so the hope is that they will be. They had already been ordered,
Right.
and then the state came back and said, oh, well, if you use federal money, you have to fill out this additional paperwork prior to doing, well, we'd already ordered them. And they said, that's okay. There were a lot of districts that had ordered things, and then the rules had changed. So I filled out all of that additional paperwork and sent it in. And so we're still waiting to hear back. We've not ordered the windows at Lincoln because we're waiting for the approval.
Okay, but once we get the approval, can we order those ASAP?
Yes, we can. They're all, I mean, everything's ready. All James has to do is push the button.
Okay, so has this board already given approval to order those windows? I just want to double check that.
It was all in the ESSER 2 plan that was approved at the May board meeting. So
Okay.
it was a part of that.
Okay, I just want to make sure, because I happened to go over there and see the windows.
What do you
and
think?
the guys, and I noticed that the new windows, I noticed the weight of them was about 53 pounds apiece, and the other ones weigh about probably 20, so they're heavy,
They're good.
heavy windows.
They
And you
will-
can't get in the classroom, the windows only open about 4.5 inches, so if somebody leaves the window open,
It's not a security.
it's not a security. Big, heavy, there, I was very impressed with them. That's why I was curious if we had the guide.
Yep, we have
He was able to
everything
come.
ready. So as soon as we get the go-ahead, we'll push the button and order those windows. But we had waited because we didn't have the approval. We
Right.
found out that the rules had changed once we'd gotten started. But yes, those windows will outlast all of us.
Oh, yes, for sure.
So, the other thing that I had on my report was the budget update. So I brought Tanya. Today, we went to KSDE and visited with Craig and went over our budget. And, there's the revenue neutral rate, which is something new, that we've,
Yes, we sat with him, and everything looked good according to how we had calculated it preliminarily. That's a word. We do anticipate that we will exceed the revenue neutral rate by just a fraction. And our purpose in that for now is to let the county know by tomorrow of our intention to exceed the revenue neutral rate. And then beyond that, we will adopt our budget at a later time within a certain window that they have provided. So all things are
considered.
good so far. Yeah, all things considered.
So can you just briefly give a summary of what this revenue neutral rate means? So
Yes. The revenue neutral rate, according to our assessed valuation, depending on whether or not it goes up or down from last year to this year, is the mill levy that we would have to assess in order to create the same amount of dollars that we received last year in tax funds. And that, as of this point, the county estimated it to be a bit higher than, last year. And we have determined with our budget that that is indeed the case.
Okay. So that means we'd have to raise our mill levy just slightly in order to generate the same amount of revenue. That's all that
Yes.
revenue neutral. We've never had to deal with that kind of concept as publicly as we have now. But anyways, it's nothing
That we can't.
traumatic.
No,
Yeah.
it really is. That's good.
Okay.
So,
Any other questions for Tanya on that aspect?
The county and the city are doing the same thing, correct?
right.
Yeah.
All
They're all raising.
all taxing entities have to do it.
Yeah.
They're all raising them.
Any other?
Well, there's an example here, and I don't know exact number, but even the general account, the state general fund, we're mandated 20 mills.
Have to do it.
And I believe ours came in here at like 19.5, 19.46.
19.93 this year and something like that.
So
Yes, it was
automatically
19.9
there,
something.
we you had to raise your mill levy to 20 because that's state law.
Right.
Because of that one fund.
Right.
then our other funds are also coming in there because our valuation remained flat. So it does,
Yeah.
just like Dr. Burns said, create a
Okay.
little bit more mill levy to equal the same dollars as last year.
So, but things looked good there, so we
Good,
appreciate
good.
that. Today, July 19th, high school,
You're
middle,
good. You're good.
cool.
Thank you.
High school principals came back, middle school assistant was back. We had, all the secretaries have all returned, and so that's good. Our elementary folks will return on June the 26th, which is next Monday. So today it was secondary folks returned, administrators. On Monday, it's our elementary ones. On August the 12th, we are going to have new teacher orientation day. We're excited about that. We hope you can join us for lunch that day, if you'll let us know. Here pretty quick, but that is all that I have.
Thank you. 7.0. Whoa.
So on August the 12th, the new teachers are going to the Youth Crisis Center?
I need to call in, yeah, well, what we were going to do is we were just going to invite the kids from the crisis center to come out and have a snow cone with us that day.
Okay.
Yeah.
I saw that and I asked Ernest and he said he didn't know anything about it.
Well, we weren't going to take everyone necessarily and go and tour. What we were going to do is go, and I was just going to call him and let him know, hey, send the boys on out. We'll all have a snow cone and visit and, you know, pretty informally. That'll be after we take bus tours around to each of the buildings, so.
Okay, thank you. Report on the July Tri-County Board meeting.
It was a pretty general meeting. We did elect our officers, and it's the same crew that we've had in the past, so there's no change there. We did all the things we do in July, the appointment of all those positions, things that we'll be doing here later today. We had added some new personnel. The big thing was that we approved premium pay for our staff out of ESSER funds. I think it's $500 for all the certified staff and $300 for the non-certified.
Towards their
and-
insurance,
What's that?
premium pay?
It's a bonus, but it's called premium
okay.
pay. We could use ESSER funds for that. And I don't know in my other hat, I was advised by Dale Dennis to do that in my school district. Because he thinks KSDE thinks that's pretty important. We take care of our staff that way. But I told him I couldn't do it because I didn't have any money. And then we did approve salaries for all the staff, 2-3% increases for everybody across the board.
And I do think part of the rationale with using the premium pay for Tri-County staff was that last year they hadn't received an increase or a bump to the base or steps or things like that. That was something that she mentioned.
So is that a one-time?
Yes.
One time.
They'll get that, I think they're gonna wait and get it in October. That way, if particularly the non-licensed people, if they get the bonus or the premium pay in August and then walk away, if you keep them till October before you give them the bonus, well, at least you've got a couple of months to work out of them.
And the rules on that have really changed
Yeah.
over the course of just 12 months from when the initial awards came out. And so have the recommendations, so.
All right, thank you very much. Moving on, new business, 8.0, action on additional Chromebooks for the 6th grade through the Emmons grant.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Page 15 in your packet has the appropriate order form for KCAV out of Kansas City. I don't know how familiar everyone is with the eMints program, but it's a program that for the middle school to get Chromebooks for 7th and 8th grade. And I think Lori originally applied for it way back when.
When I was the middle school principal, I applied. It provides professional development, technology integration, all kinds of other tech equipment.
And this is before we were one-to-one or anything
Right.
like that. We ended up not being part of the original group. We were the control group, which means we kind of had to give, like 2 or 3 times a year, send some data back to them to say, hey, this is what we're doing on our own stuff, so that they can then compare that to when they come in and give us the trainings to be like, hey, this, to show how much they have improved or anything like that. But even back then, the goal was to purchase 6th grade equipment as well, to involve them as much as in the process as we can. And we actually got it, I believe, to where sixth grade can be involved in those initial technology trainings too. They said they had enough money in the funds to do that. So, but this would be for the sixth grade, 110 Chromebooks. They'll be the same ones that the seventh and eighth grade do. So that section B down there is the part that we would be responsible for. So the only discrepancy is that the number of cases is more than the number of Chromebooks because there was a miscommunication at the beginning. Originally, they had mobile carts for us instead of cases. And since with the new curriculum, they will be taking them home most likely, that the cases are more important than a cart at that point. So they were able to cover 186 of the cases at that same cart price. Otherwise, we would have had to like resubmit and it'd be a whole nightmare. So we're actually covering 34 of the cases. But again, I mean, this is just one of the orders. I mean, that's $81,908 that we've been approved to get. And then we have 3D printers as part of another order. There's 4 orders total. One of them is like a GPS thing for classrooms, just kind of like for like experimental type situations, like little classroom labs. That 3D printers, and I think there are a couple of TV carts too, with some premium touch televisions. So,
Where do the 3D printers go? I mean, like, just what teacher, or is it just in the computer lab, or?
I'm not specifically sure on that. Again, I've been more the technical
Okay, yeah.
aspect
The teachers
of it in
always-
terms of making sure we're getting everything and everything's going to work.
Right. And we're supposed to have more of that training in August. That's part of the implementation team, and so.
Yeah, and so they kind of do like a train the trainers type of thing. So I'm sure Matt Peak will be involved, plus a couple other teachers, and then they can have their own kind of professional developments on that. So.
I would want one.
I think it's a great opportunity.
So, I mean, it's over $10,000, that's why I'm here. So without this, sixth grade has no devices because the Chromebooks they did have are now retired.
Okay, any further questions? Mr. McGuire? Okay, so we do need a motion.
I make
Take
a
action.
motion that we buy the Chromebooks in the sixth grade from KCAV with the cases included.
Second?
Moved and seconded to approve those Chromebooks. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you, Mr. McGuire.
Thank you.
8.1, action to approve consent agenda items for 21-22.
Do you want me to go through and read each one?
Just the one, let's see, we do have a proposal to increase the substitute pay from 110 to 120. So that is a change from last year. So we think that we're going to have a more difficult time hiring this year, like all the other employers are. And so we're recommending to increase that to 120 per day.
Have we discussed that any? I mean.
We have not discussed it. We're going to discuss it right now.
We can discuss it
And
right
so the concern is with the labor shortages is that we need all the help we can get to get good able bodies in the classroom.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah, so in adding that $10 a day to that, had we filled all of the sub positions that were open last year, there were 805, it would cost the district an additional $8,050. But it might make us a little more marketable when it's coming up on their phone on ASOP or Frontline. Oh, I'll take a Parsons job instead of them.
But we could raise it, should we decide different. I mean.
Even more, yeah.
Well, I was just thinking if we're at one, what are we at now?
We're at 110 now.
We're 110.
And so then, which is higher than anyone else in the area. However, I do think there are a number of them that
Probably
are
jumping.
bumping to 110
Mr.
now.
Pegues, do you know anything about who's paying or what they might pay in the area?
It's all pretty close.
It's all,
It's very competitive. A lot of them work several school districts, so I think it would be smart to be the top payer or close to the top to try to, there's big demand and competition for those subjects.
And currently
do any
we're at
of
the top.
them, okay, and either one you can answer, do any of them offer any kind of a bonus like Kansas City was at one time? If you teach so many days or blah, 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 you get this? Does anybody do anything like that? Just straight?
It's anywhere from $90 to $100 where the average is for everyone kind of around here.
I think we ought to give more than that. I mean, those subs, really,
Yeah, I do too. Jeff brought up a good point about shortage. My wife and I went out for anniversary dinner Saturday to Kitchen Pass. As we walked in, the sign says close at 8 o'clock. We tried to call in to get an order, no carryouts. Close at 8. So Dave Paula showed up and we said, what's going on? We have staff that have COVID. I mean, he doesn't know that for a fact, but that's what he said. He can't stay open. My brother who owns the Mall Deli in Pittsburgh, he had 6 staff that didn't show up because they had COVID. In fact, my brother and sister-in-law, who both had the vaccinations, they had to be quarantined for 10 days. Matt Atterbury put on Facebook tonight that the positivity rate right now at Labette Health is almost 22%. So you're right. We are looking at a possible shortage, and I have to agree with that. I think we need to
Well, we
raise
would
that
do whatever
price.
the board wants. I mean, that was just
Well,
a,
I'm just
Yeah.
What
telling
did you
you.
say, raise it
So we
$10
know for
would
10,
cost?
every $10 we'd raise it would be, based on the number of sub-days we had last year, if those days were consistent, be $8,050 is what it would have cost us additionally last year.
Not counting the high school teachers and those who do fill in
Right.
for the 15, for the extra hours.
What's your number?
I'd say, you say you wanted to go to 130?
no, we were 120 was the proposal.
Right, but you said,
No, we were at 110. The
110,
proposal's 120. If you want more, we can do the math, talk about it. It's-
I don't know. Olivia, what do you think?
I'm sitting here trying to remember, and I'm old, but it seems like we said at one time that we were gonna offer some training to our substitute. Did I just dream that?
No, at the beginning of last year, so we started that last year where the substitutes all came in, we gave them a mask. We went over the procedures, the policies, kind of how we do things. And so we'll do that again, but we wanted to see how much the pay was going to be first so that we could send it out and maybe more people would be enticed to come to the training. So, yeah, we'll have a couple
I think
hours.
the quality of our substitutes is very important.
It is?
Yes.
And I think without training, good training, not just getting a mask, but some in-depth training and what we expect of them.
Right.
Is there any on technology or anything like, because that sometimes is so hard for
That'll
them.
be something
I
that.
can't even imagine
Yeah, that'll be
stepping in.
something that we include this year. Last year, there were some directions and things that were included in paper, and we do go over the expectations, when you come in a building.
And I think it's important that they be evaluated as well.
Are they evaluating? At one time, we talked about having an evaluation.
Maybe that's the point.
There used to be a page that the classroom teacher would fill out after he or she had had a substitute in their classroom.
But none that the sub filled out
But none-
on the class.
Well, subs will leave notes.
I always had subs leave notes.
But they're not put away in a file for.
No.
No.
What is it? Is it 8 hours a day, run around, give or take?
7.5.
Okay, so, I mean, you do them.
I did the math.
You do the math on $15 an hour.
Right.
You know, I don't know.
Right.
I'd go as high as 150. That's probably going to eat us alive, but
Well, I was thinking 140.
140? 140 is all right with me. I suppose the rest of them will jump too.
Because that's your problem, you get in a bidding war, but I guess if you want to attract people.
And I think as much.
Well, Jeff, what's your, I mean, you work with money. You're talking.
You know the numbers. She told you 8,000.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, so-
8,500 for every $10, and so that's a $25,000 bill right there, or 30.
32.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. so-
and I do think at 110, we are the highest, but there are a couple districts that we're going to go to 110. So I think at 120, we would again be the highest and attract quality.
With the frontline program, they do fill out an evaluation. The teacher does, they can go in and fill it out.
Oh, did you know that?
They can.
Oh, they can, but we don't have it set up that way?
No, it's there.
I'm sorry, I
It's
didn't hear
just
what
not
what he said.
required.
On-
Have to.
Valuation.
So
And
when,
subs can do the same thing too on the class.
On the
in
front line,
So-
which is on the computer.
since
when they
it's
come
all
in
on
at-
the computer, I guess the substitute teacher could go in and, if they wanted to, but it's not a requirement. And I don't know that we've ever had any of those.
Random.
Yeah.
I would say 135, that's $18 an hour. So I'd say 135 would be my number.
Sounds good to
If
me.
you- I mean, if
Yeah.
you're in support of it, hell, you're the,
18 an hour.
Yeah, I mean,
Like
I
one- Yeah.
think that's fair.
Mhm.
I mean, anything lower than that.
When you can go to cases and make 15.
Well, I was gonna say, I mean, or Brahms or something, if you're an adult. So 135 would be my number probably. Anyway.
Sounds good to me.
So that was that issue, and then to my, also, one little friendly amendment, we don't need a hearing officer for free and reduced price meal application appeals. Is that accurate?
That is
Right.
correct.
Okay. So the two changes would then be, we would be changing on this consent agenda where we approve all these things, we're going to change the substitute pay to 135, that would be the motion, and we don't need a hearing officer for free and reduced price meals this year. Okay.
Are they still free this year?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just we're
Through
taking.
this year.
Yeah,
Through
yeah.
this year.
Yeah, our,
So that's, we did the home economic survey, we attached that to enrollment. And enrollment is open. I'm going to send out a call, but
Yeah.
people are at home listening, they can.
and I don't think you need to read them all off, they're all here,
No,
so.
I think
We would
they're
just
all
need a
here.
motion to approve the consent agenda items with those two amendments, the 135 for substitute pay.
I'll move.
Okay. All right.
Second?
Moved and seconded to approve those consent agenda items with the changes noted. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. 8.2, action to set special board meeting to discuss and take action on procedures and protocols for the school year.
For the 21-22 school year.
Yep.
So last Thursday, we had our KSDE superintendent's meeting, and the only recommendations that are going to come out in regard to starting school in August from KSDE are going to be, they're going to follow this, they're going to recommend that we follow the CDC recommendations, and so those recommendations were included in your view week before last when they came out. So,
So we may need to have a meeting
Right.
just to visit.
just to visit about what those are.
How things are going to look going into the school year. And so do we want to set that meeting day and time right now is the issue?
That is
So,
correct.
Yeah.
That'd be wise.
So, I don't know, what's your flavor? I mean, what are you thinking?
I'm thinking the first week of August.
Okay.
So then we will have a little more data, and we'll have 2 weeks before school starts. So
How about, and just in case I'm gone, how about like Monday the 9th? Would that be something that we could navigate?
we could, if we did it early in the morning or in the afternoon slash
Or
evening.
what about you, Mike? What are your thoughts?
I'm okay early morning, but I'm booked the rest of the day on the 9th.
Okay.
So we could.
I'm
do-
assuming you're booked the 10th too?
Let me see what's on the 10th. 10th in the evening's fine.
Okay. So, I mean, 9th or 10th?
10th is good with me.
10th is better with me. I'm traveling on the 9th.
In the evening on the 10th then?
Yes.
Okay. So let's just do a meeting at evening on the 10th. Would that work for you, Lori?
Yes, it will.
Okay. Yeah, good.
And that's on a
August
Tuesday?
the 10th is on a Tuesday.
It shouldn't be a very long meeting.
No.
And, yeah.
And most of the information, I'll send out in upcoming views, so
Okay.
you'll have that information. So,
Okay.
That's 6, the regular time?
I think 6 is okay. Yeah, that's okay. So do we want to have that here? Go ahead and have that here? or- Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so we need action then to set special board meeting Tuesday, August 10th, 6 PM in this room to discuss and take possible action on 21-22 school year.
So moved.
Okay, moved and seconded to do that. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No? Okay. 8.3, action on textbook fees.
okay, so in the last 2 years, textbook fees have been waived, so we would recommend that you waive those fees again for the 21-22 school year.
I so move.
I second.
Moved and seconded to waive the textbook fees again this year. All those in favor say aye.
Hold on.
Whoop.
Those are only high school textbooks, right? Or, excuse me, K through 12, not concurrent or dual credit classes.
That is correct. Anything that runs through the college is separate.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
I know.
Still have a motion and a second on the floor. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries.
Okay.
8.4, action to approve the plethora of
And
handbooks.
there is a variety. So those handbooks were handed out and we're on the June 21st agenda. So here we are. I haven't gotten any questions regarding any of those up to this point. So there weren't a lot of substantial changes.
None in some, so.
Right.
so,
Correct.
Yeah. Move to approve this.
Wait, hold on. Does that include the vaccinations?
You should, right?
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
All right. I don't want to gloss over vaccinations after what's going on in Tennessee, and the state is approving for, students don't have to show any vaccinations to get into school. I think our patrons need to know what the state law is, and now with COVID vaccinations, it's getting a little confusing as to what you should have and what you don't have to have. So I was hoping that Amber would publicly clarify that somehow.
Okay, and what I was
I mean,
thinking
I'm not
was,
against what's in there, but it's something that,
and I think that could be something when we have the procedures and protocols meeting, that Amber be a part of that discussion. And
procedures and protocol,
when we have that special board meeting on August the 10th.
and that's a public meeting, that's fine.
Okay.
Just to clarify, because I don't understand it all right now. So,
Any further comments on those handbooks? Okay.
I saw some grammatical things, and I'll just call and share those. We're not going to nitpick tonight.
All right. Any other comments? Otherwise, we need a motion.
I move to accept the books. What are we calling them?
All the handbooks.
Second.
All the handbooks, yes.
Moved and seconded to approve the 21-22 staff handbook, student parent handbook, bus driver handbook, parent-student transportation handbook. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. 8.5, action to approve recommended June CASB updates. So you've seen those before as
You
well.
have seen those before as well.
So moved.
hold on. Did you ever find out why there were so many pages on the harassment and the discrimination for people that were disabled and minorities? I brought that up at the last meeting, and Jeff had asked you to see if you could find out anything, if there were any lawsuits pending.
That's not that, there wasn't anything, those were just the new updates that were given to KS.
So you don't know?
KSB. No. Well, and KSB there wasn't any groundbreaking thing that had happened that had encouraged those.
They just review
To be
the
altered.
policies on a regular basis
Right.
and make sure they coincide with state law, state and federal
This
law.
is more than a review. It was, I mean, it was.
No, that's what it was.
It was lengthy.
But that, if you look, the old one was as well.
Right. And that, you'll notice like on our classified handbook, that when we sent it to KSB, there were numerous changes in that, and it's just because of the length of time it had
And
been.
one of the things I haven't read. Believe it or not.
It is hard to believe
No.
it.
But it's not for tonight's, I mean, it's for approval later. Tonight's just the first reading of
All right,
that.
so you didn't hear of any red flags?
No, there were no red
That's all I wanna
flags.
know.
Okay, we need a motion on those CASB updates.
So moved.
Okay, we got a motion.
Second.
Motion and second to approve those recommended June CASB policy updates. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. 8.6, first reading of the 21-22 classified staff handbook.
And so that came out last week. We're not taking any action on it. There were numerous changes in that, and part of that is because when KSB went through and looked, when ours was written, there were just numerous policies that have been changed and updated at the state and federal level. So that will be on the August board meeting for approval.
Okay, thank you. So we're down to executive session. What kind of a time do you think you need for your issues?
20, 30, 15, 20.
Okay, does anybody have anything for executive session other than what administration has here?
Maybe 10 minutes.
Okay. So let's go ahead and go 25 then. And then if we need to extend, we will. So I need a motion for executive session for 25 minutes.
I so move. Second.
Okay, do we need a break before we go to executive session? Okay, we need a break. So what we'll do then is we'll take a 5-minute recess and then enter executive session for 25 minutes. And so it's been moved, seconded to go into executive session, discuss confidential employee information pursuant to non-elected personnel exception or coma and the exception for employee-employer negotiations in coma at 6:48. So we'll take a 5-minute recess and then enter executive session at 6:53. And then that will bring us back in open session at 7:18 in this room, and we will have superintendent and assistant superintendent in the executive session. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we are recessed for 5 minutes and then executive session for 25. Okay, we are back in open session. We do need to extend executive session, and so I'll entertain a motion for another 12 minutes to get us to 7:30.
Second.
Moved and seconded to enter executive session with superintendent and assistant superintendent again for non-elected personnel, exception or coma, and employer-employee negotiations, starting at 7:18. We'll be back in open session at 7:30. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, motion carries. So we're executive session, 12 minutes.
for this coming year?
It was approved in last.
The legislature approved it, yeah.
Yes, the legislation did.
Okay, we are back in regular session now. We're moving to 8.8, action on personnel.
Okay, so we've got some recommendations for employment effective the 21-22 school year. Lillian Kendrick, high school child nutrition staff. Nicole Hudson, high school part-time child nutrition staff. Dan Myers, bus monitor. Stephanie Smith, high school child nutrition staff. I recommend that you approve those folks for employment.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve those employments. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right.
We've got
So
an
an addendum, an 8.8, action on personnel. I have one resignation from employment, Ryan Willis, 8th grade language arts teacher, effective July the 19th, 2021. I recommend that you approve that with regret.
So moved.
Second?
Moved and seconded to approve Mr. Wilson's resignation. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. 8.9, action on supplemental assignments.
So these supplementals are listed on page 23 through 26 of your packet. We've got a couple that I need for you to go through and mark out. So as we look through here, you would need to remove where Mr. Willis is listed there under sports, under the variety of sports, and Mrs. Nance for high school dust kickers. So if you would remove those two from your list, everyone else, I recommend that you approve that list of supplementals.
Is soccer just for boys? I thought it was co-ed.
It's still called boys.
Because it's
It's
in a
still
boys'
called boys
season.
because it's in the boys' season.
It's in a boys' season, so that's,
Okay. And no swimming, we've got some empty coaches that we're looking for?
we do. Mhm.
Okay.
Okay, I need a motion on those supplementals first.
Move to approve the supplemental.
Second?
Moved and seconded to approve those supplementals as amended there. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. No further business. We are adjourned this
All
evening.
right, thank you.
Got to sign these papers.
Okay, so